Hi everybody, I'm here today to talk about radon with Robert of Roberts Radon.
How are you?
Good, thank you. Can you introduce yourself a little bit? Tell the folks here where you guys operate.
Yeah, my name is Robert Itzoff. I'm the owner of Roberts Radon. We're a Gaithersburg, Maryland-based radon testing and mitigation company that we started in 2016.
All right, so today I want to talk a little bit about the new legislation that's just been passed for Montgomery County that starts this July. But before we get started, can you give a primer for the folks, like some of the basics? What is radon and how does it come into your house?
Sure. So, radon is a odorless gas that enters your house from the soil. Essentially, there's minor traces of uranium that are in the ground, probably everywhere, and in about a third of the United States, there's enough of it in the ground where, as it deteriorates, it changes into radon gas and comes into your house through either the basement, your slab foundation, or even your crawl space.
Okay. And why do we care if this gas comes into our house?
So radon is thought to be the second leading cause of lung cancer after smoking, and therefore it's really important to address, especially because it's not hard to fix, right? If you know about it, you can fix it relatively easily.
All right. Let's start there then. What is the best, or what is the typical way that you test for radon to find the level in a house?
So there's many approved radon devices, and they all work well. We choose to use only professional electronic equipment, because we then can analyze the results immediately and get results back to everyone fast. But also there's a lot of additional information that you get from the computerized devices, let's say compared to charcoal or electric type devices.
Okay. And when you gather these test results, what are we looking for? What are the EPA requirements that we already have in place right now for Montgomery County for buyers and sellers that we're typically used to seeing?
Yeah, good question. The EPA action level is 4 picocuries per liter. That's the measurement of radon. And so anything 4 or above, the EPA says, mitigate that situation. If it's between 2 and 4, then they say, well, think about it, right? Considering the fact that it isn't so expensive to fix and you can improve your air quality, right? It should be something that, as a homeowner, you consider. And if it's 2 or less, they say it's probably not worth, doing something about.
Okay.
But maybe an interesting statistic for Montgomery County, Maryland, probably 1 in 3 homes test high.
Wow.
And so probably 2/3 are either high or in that range of 2 and above where you ought to consider it. So just for your information.
Yeah, I heard that it also changed after the earthquake we had. I think it was 2010 that they were saying things like that earthquake can change where levels that maybe that you didn't see it as high before, you might see it higher because of the shifts in the ground.
Sure,
so.
it's possible. And when it pertains to homes, like let's say if you make a change to the foundation or a change to mechanical systems in the house, likewise, right? Those changes can change the situation in your home as well, where you might need to retest.
Interesting. So what are some of the main ways that you would typically remediate high radon in, let's say, a single family in Montgomery County?
Okay, so the simplest way that I can put it, a radon remediation system is like a vacuum cleaner where you stick the vacuum tube underneath your house. And by creating then a vacuum under the house, air from under the house doesn't want to get into it, right? And it's actually more likely that air from the house gets into the foundation and ejected over the eave of the roof by the radon system. So you're simply denying entry to the radon. That's the simplest way I can describe it.
Okay. So in new construction homes, we'll probably see a different situation in terms of the actual system itself versus maybe an older home in terms of the methodology for where it would necessarily be put into your house?
Radon is always the same regardless of what your house is like. But in newer construction, according to when a county adopts the International Construction Code Appendix F for radon resistance, right? in newer homes, essentially you find passive radon systems. So newer homes are less costly and, to mitigate a radon problem, pretty easy to do. So in new construction, you find passive radon systems. Any foundation 1980 or newer, pretty simple to do the mitigation. Some challenges exist for homes older than 1980 just because of how the foundation maybe was constructed.
Okay. And this, what's the general kind of price? And obviously each home and situation will be different, but assuming a typical home, what's the price ballpark that we should be thinking about for a cost if radon does come in high and you have to put in a system?
Yeah, probably the average system that we install is about $1,200. A basic system is probably $1,100. And then if you need a stronger fan, or we're exiting a home through a brick situation, then it can be a little bit more expensive. But typically, I would say on average $1,200.
Okay, so let's jump now into this new bill. So there's a new bill that was just passed for effect this July 1st. So what does that cover now from our old existing law where we had to be testing in Montgomery County? What is the change for this new law?
Sure. So the first radon bill came in October of 2016, and essentially, before a real estate transfer can take place in Montgomery County, somebody has to test for radon, either the buyer or the seller, and disclose that information. At that time, what was left out was rental situations and multifamily dwellings, right? And so effective July 1, 2023, the new radon bill that Montgomery County passed into law will cover those multifamily and rental units. So essentially, whether you buy or rent before that transaction can take place, radon has to be tested for.
Right.
And if it's in a multifamily building, it really only affects the ground contact units, not the upper level units.
Right. So this is any ground contact or basement units.
Correct. Yeah.
And the level in this is also to get below that 4 the picocuries per liter.
Yeah, the action level for the EPA remains the same, 4. And so landlords need to take action if the measurement comes back over 4.
Okay, and so from a process perspective, that would be showing the test results the test results have to be at least within the last 3 years, have to be below 4 picocuries per liter, and you have to receive a copy of the EPA radon guide for tenants. So what if it is high, the process, it says that you have 90 days basically from the testing to fix this level, and at that point they want you to bring it below 2 picocuries per liter?
Well, the EPA suggests that mitigation to 2 or below is possible. I think the aim of the bill is to get people below 4.
Okay, excellent. And one quick point to note is that this is something that the landlords are paying for out of their pocket. It's their cost, not something that the tenant is paying for.
Well, yes, but also the tenant can take the initiative to do the test on their own if they want to.
Yeah, and if the landlord does not mitigate, then my understanding is that the tenant could choose to break their lease.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah.
So this is obviously very important. And the light's back. This is obviously very important for buyers and sellers, but now it's going to be basically for anyone living in Montgomery County to take this as like a serious point.
Yeah, and it makes a lot of sense. If radon's the second leading cause of lung cancer, and you spend most of your time in your home, at least knowing what your situation is important.
Yeah, especially when it's something that's not too expensive to fix.
Yeah, and listen, the place we're standing in today has high radon. Our home has high radon, and I also own a couple of rental properties that are very low, and they're all in Montgomery County. So you never know until you test.
Yes, my last townhouse also had a high radon, so
yeah.
It is.
And I think the most important thing that landlords, tenants, homeowners, or buyers need to be aware of: this is not a complicated issue to fix, right? So don't stress about it. test, fix it if you need to. It's not that big a deal.
Yeah, it's one of the easiest things, actually, if it does come up in a real estate transaction, to fix and repair, because you can call in an expert to handle it.
And not to say that radon, fixing radon problems is without problems, because it certainly isn't. But I think that's a small percentage of the situations where there are specific circumstances with a home, right, where there's other systems that are causing a radon problem,
Right.
like water mitigation systems or that kind of stuff. So,
Right.
but leave that to us. We know how to fix it.
Wonderful. All right, well, there you have it. New Montgomery County laws explained, and a little bit of radon.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, no, it was great to have you.
Thank you.
Now you have an expert if you need somebody.
Thank you.
All right.